Welcome back everybody to Mile and Me. I like to do these videos every now and again, right, for people without MS, right? Just so you can actually realise what it's like to have this condition. And I'm not getting my small little violin out and I'm giving it, because that's not what we do. But I just want to sort of refresh, for people who live with people with MS every single day, and just, you know, want them to know what we're going through, and what it's like. So that's what we're going to do in this one. So stay tuned if you want. And by the end of it, you're going to be clapping and everything and think, yes, it's just absolutely brilliant. So this video is not about MRI scans, it's not a medical video, and it's not about long Latin names about stuff we don't even know. It's about what it feels like every single day to live with multiple sclerosis. Most people think that MS is just about not being able to walk properly. And to be honest, I wish it was that easy. That's the easy part to explain. People see me in a wheelchair, it's like Mike's got MS, but you don't know what's going on inside this. And what's harder, it's everything you can't see, isn't it? To see somebody living with that. So imagine waking up every single day feeling like your body's been unplugged overnight, your energy's gone, your battery didn't charge properly. We've all done that, haven't we? We've plugged our phone in when it's on like 3%, you wake up in the morning, it's still on 3%, and you're like, ugh. But it's a reality sometimes, and that's what it's like living with MS. You've still got to get up in the morning, you still got to get dressed, you still got to have your shower. Preferably the shower before getting dressed, right? Because that causes all sorts of issues. But you've got to get the kids to school, haven't you? If you're unfortunate enough like me, you've got to go to work every day. You've got to smile, because if you don't smile, people are like, what's wrong with you then? And everybody should know what's wrong with you, but you've still got to smile and make conversation. You've still got to be bouncy, haven't you? But inside, it's like dragging a bag of wet cement around with you. Every single day is the same, isn't it? That's your fatigue. You'll have a shower and you've got to sit down for 20 minutes after. It's not just being tired. It's like, oh, Mike's tired again. And you're like, I'm not tired. I wish it was just tiredness. It's like medical level exhaustion that coffee can't fix, sleeping can't fix. It's just a complete body meltdown. Then there's a little bit of pain to go on with it, and then your numbness. Pins and needles just never stop. They're there all the time, and people say, pins and needles there all the time. You're like, yeah, yes, continuously there. Don't go away. It's there all the time. Or that sort of burning electric shock that shoots through your leg every so often. You're like, whoa, what the hell is that? Or while you're just trying to, watch the TV and something will happen to your arm and you're like, what is going on? Your arm will start vibrating and things like that. And people just like, okay. So it's just like your nervous system's just throwing a tantrum in it. And you're just sat there and you're just like, oh my God, just for 1 minute, just leave me alone. You can't tell it off, can you? You can't be like, stop doing that, because it'll just keep going and going and going. So from the outside though, we look fine. I know it's like the physical stuff, but when you just sat there, it's like, that's the hardest part. It's like people still say to me now, oh, I just sat in your chair, that's all you do all day. And you're like, well, no, I do other things, but I sit mostly in my chair, But you look all right though. And you're like, well, yeah, I do feel all right because I'm sat down doing nothing, but then it's kind of just like, you get looked at, don't you? And you're just thinking, if only you knew how much effort it took just to be sat down. It's like, I'm not just sat down because I'm lazy. I'm sat down because I need to sit down, because if I don't, I'll just fall down. People don't see the preparation. You sit on the edge of your bed every morning and you just take 3 deep breaths and you just think, right, I've got to get up. I can do this every single day. And you've got to put this like front on. And it's so difficult. It's like when you just think of things you've got to do for like the week. I try not to do that now. I try to think, right, what have I got to do in the next minute? Because if I thought what I got to do in a week, I just wouldn't make it. And then you kind of like, I'm lucky I got a stair lift, so you kind of just think, oh, I gotta go downstairs, but I'm lucky I've got a nice stair lift which gets me down there. So it just doesn't affect your body, it affects your mind, it steals your choices. You know, it's just a mental battle. And for me, that is probably the hardest bit. You know, I can handle the not being able to walk. It's not nice, but you know, brain fog just completely wipes me out. You know, you forget words mid sentence. You're halfway through a conversation, you're thinking, what's that word? What's that word? Like, oh yeah, and. It's just like simple words which you don't know, and your brain will just like freeze, or you know, you feel down for some reason, and it'll just click, and you just like, I just feel awful all of a sudden. And it's frustrating, and it must be frustrating for the people who've got to watch this. You know, they just got to watch you like this, and you know, it makes you question your own intelligence, doesn't it? You know, you think, why do I feel like this? Why? But we've got a chronic illness at the end of the day, and it must be really hard for people to understand who haven't got MS. You know, it's like I suffer a lot from anxiety. I'm not too proud to say it. I just fear what's next, you know, because I know MS doesn't follow the rules, and I sit there and I'm thinking, what is going to happen now, you know, and you just don't know if tomorrow will be the day when something else happens. You have a relapse and then something else happens, or you wake up and you know you can't move your other leg. You know, at least I've got like right side I can move. You know, I can't move my left side, but my right side, and I just don't know. And it's that uncertainty. You know, people say, you know, stay positive, but you can't. So imagine if you haven't got MS and every single day you don't know what the next day is going to be like. You know, at least if you're well, you can get up and you think, chances are tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to feel all right. Might be a bit tired, but I'm going to be all right. When you've got MS, it's not like that. You can't, you know, you don't know if tomorrow is going to be completely different and your life is going to completely change. So, you know, we're not looking for advice. You know, we're not fishing for sympathy. We just need someone, just, you know, people just to believe us. You know, when we cancel plans, it's not because we're being flaky or we don't want to go. It's sort of survival. You get to the end of the day and you're so tired. You know, you're just like, I'm just going to have to cancel. And I hate doing things like that. You know, I hate having to cancel preparations and things. You know, but you got to look at, it's not cheating. It's sort of pacing yourself. And that is the hardest bit I've found with this condition, is pacing yourself. It's like I'll do loads of stuff on Saturday and then Sunday I'm good for nothing. You know, so when we say we're tired of it, I think, rather than sort of tired. It just feels like your body's shutting down tired. You know, your body's sort of leaving you. But with me, it's like 50-50. My left side's like, oh, I'm knackered. And your right side's like, no, come on, let's go. So one's pulling one side and one's pulling the other. So, you know, we joke about it. That's how we cope. Because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry in you. So, you know, if you want to help someone with MS, it's kind of like, you know, I'm going to tell you. Number one, believe them, right? We're not taking the mick. It's true. You know, even when it doesn't make sense to you, it's like, well, you were all right 2 seconds ago. Now look at you. It's like, you know, it don't make sense to us either. I don't know. It's like now I'm all like this. The next minute I could be like laying on a settee, like I've had enough. You know, I'm just gone. So it links into number 2, which is please be patient. We're not being slow. We're doing our best with what our body lets us do today. You know, some days it's like, oh, wicked. You know, I feel like 1% better. You're like, yeah, I'll take that every day. So number 3 is include us. You know, even if we can't do the whole thing, invite us anyway. Because, you know, being forgotten, I think, hurts more than actually being tired. And we notice this a lot, you know. I've had days where I felt completely broken, you know, when my leg doesn't work. Fatigue is like through the roof, and you know, I thought, what's the point in this? But you got to keep going, and you know, from my point of view, you know, just talking to a camera, talking to you guys, it's helping me. It helps me loads. You know, when I get comments and things like that, it really, really helps. And I'm lucky enough to have a really good family. I've got a lovely support, you know, and I'm so lucky with that. And say this amazing community online has just completely changed stuff. It's a real game changer. So, you know, it's kind of like MS might shape how I live. It doesn't control how I show up though. You know, I can beat MS like when it comes to things like that, and you know, I might look lazy, but I'm not being lazy. You know, we're not fragile. You know, sometimes we are, but very rare. We're just fighting battles that you can't see, and we're fighting them every minute of every single day. There's always another battle. So, you know, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. You know, I know I probably rambled on a little bit, but I just want to speak out for people with MS as well, who might not be able to articulate how they feel, or they might struggle, you know, with words and things like that. So this video is for that as well. So thank you very much for joining in, and I'll speak to you on the next one.